Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about 5 Survivor seasons that deserve a re-edit. What to include and from whose point of view. These are the biggest decisions made when producers are constructing any given season's narrative. There are precious few minutes available for the end TV product, so making the right call on those choices is paramount to turning out a great season of Survivor. Now, Survivor almost always has really great editing in my opinion, but sometimes the storytelling just misses the mark, and there are a lot of ways that can happen. The problem can be with the winner, either being overly telegraphed or hidden a little too well. The problem can be with the rest of the cast, where players are sidelined or the wrong people are focused on. It can be structural. Too many people, too much going on, not enough time. Or it can be the rarest but the worst. Plain old bad storytelling. Subplots brought up but abandoned, important relationships never shown then materializing out of nowhere, random dudes in purple shirts showing up in the finale who we're supposed to take seriously as some sort of endgame threat. I ain't buying it. While we're here, it's worth noting that bad season does not necessarily mean bad edit. I mean, they can only work with what they have. South Pacific is a season not a lot of people like, for example, because of how the season itself shook out. But I think it's generally a really well-edited season, with fully developed arcs for most of the main characters, full of humor and tragedy and insight into human behavior. So even though this isn't a season a lot of people would have in the top tier, I don't think it's poorly edited. We're on the same page here. So today, I thought it would be fun to look at 5 Survivor seasons that I think would drastically improve if different decisions had been made in the show's approach to telling the story, aka re-editing the season. I'm not saying I know better, but no one bats 1,000. And sometimes creative decisions and risks just don't pay off the way they thought they would. So bust out your Edgic chart, count up your confessionals, and just show up in the finale as we take a look at 5 Survivor seasons most in need of a re-edit. At number 5 is Survivor Ghost Island. The narrative of Ghost Island places an overt emphasis on Wendell and Dom at the expense of almost everyone else in the cast, a decision which only made sense in hindsight given their unprecedented tie at Final Tribal Council. On the one hand, I get it. You build these 2 guys up because the rest of the Final 6 has the collective survivor savvy of a ham sandwich. But unfortunately, this focus on Dom and Wendell was a storytelling risk that just failed to pay off in my opinion, turning the season into a predictable and frustrating slog on both the initial week-to-week viewing and even more so on a rewatch. I don't think this would ever be a great season. The cast is pretty weak, the boot order's bad, and Ghost Island as a concept doesn't reach its full potential. But by focusing in so narrowly on Dom and Wendell's story, a lot of genuine threats to their domination were all but sidelined. But primarily, in my opinion, Chelsea and Dez, who would have provided a threat to the Wendell and Dom hegemony in a post-Chris world. This season was just so desperately in need of a beefier Navidi storyline other than Navidi strong. Once Chris is gone, who even are these people? Ghost Island is so boring because you know Dom or Wendell is going to win from like episode 3, and nearly every post-merge episode is someone deciding they should go, Laurel thinking really hard about flipping all episode, then inevitably playing it safe. An outcome we know will happen because only Wendell, Dom, and to a lesser extent Kellen and Donathan are really developed as characters. I mean, you don't think she's gonna win, do you? I get why they went this way. The Dom and Wendell storyline was really exciting, and they're 2 of the most charismatic players on a cast generally lacking in big personalities. But we probably could have lost a few scenes of Wendell and Dom making googly eyes at each other. At number 4 is Survivor Cook Islands. This was Survivor's first 20-person season, where everyone actually had a chance to play, and it shows. While I think Survivor got the major beats right, I2's come from behind victory over Raro, Penner flipping then flipping again, and a love story for the ages, There are simply too many completely invisible and irrelevant post-swap, pre-merge characters. I think all of the post-mergers are reasonably well developed, but there are so many players given basically nothing in the edit who are either completely invisible or reduced to extremely one-note caricatures because they didn't yet know how to balance a 20-person cast and 42-minute episodes. Who is Christina, Brad, JP, Cecilia, Flicka, Rebecca? I didn't even show Cecilia during that montage. I showed Jessica from Survivor Fiji, and you didn't even notice. I don't think Rebecca needed an Aussie-sized edit or anything, but like a confessional in her boot episode would be nice. At least show her final words. Overall, Cook Island's main problem narratively for me is that they bit off more than they could chew with 20 players, and we're still finding the balance on how to tell a cohesive story with so many players' storylines to cover. And I think this is a season that would improve a great deal if it had been made a few years later, after they had a few 20-person seasons under their belt, where they knew how to walk the tightrope that is editing 20 individual storylines into 42 minutes. If you give this one another pass, though, please do it with fewer Candace and Adam makeout scenes. Please? At number 3 is Survivor 41. This is a season where the editing decisions they made in real time were probably correct, but which in turn have caused the season to not hold up well the further we get from it. There are a few main problems with this season narratively as I see it. One, they had a lot of new era table setting to do. Shots in the dark, journeys, knowledge is power, beware advantages, earn the merge, smash the hourglass, unearn the merge, now you earn the merge again, do or die, Jeff's mullet, the after show. It was a lot. And each of these new elements had to be set up by the show, eating up a lot of time. 2, the tone. If you didn't watch this live, this was Survivor's return to TV in the fall of 2021 after a year and a half off the air due to COVID. Pandemic was still going strong, and Survivor's vibe shifted accordingly to a more gentle and inspirational tone. Unfortunately, these backstory packages, showing the great odds players have overcome in their personal lives, are so inspiring they'll make your teeth hurt, and their placement in the season often felt unmotivated and unwarranted to boot. I generally felt these were appropriate at the time. We all needed a little inspiration in the fall of 2021, but revisiting the season now, some of them are truly laughable. Look, Danny's, Tiffany's, sure, these are good. But JD's is literally just that he wore glasses in high school, then he took them off and became cool. Which, debatable, this honestly reads like Survivor parodying itself. I actually cannot tell.
Growing up, I was not always the bro with the long hair and the pretty teeth and the really nice style. I was bullied a lot because I was short, I was skinny, I had braces, I had glasses. You know, I wasn't cool. I always say I grew up more like Carlton Banks than I grew up like Will Smith.
Finally, and most crucially, the non-existent early game content for Erica and Heather's friendship is the season's biggest sin. Erica in general got very little coverage in the pre-merge of the season. Her smashing the hourglass was obviously intended as her breakout moment in the season's narrative. I can forgive that risk, and there's nothing wrong with keeping your winner under wraps until a pivotal moment. But Erica's relationship with Heather, which ended up being literally the most important relationship of the season, was completely purged from the edit in the first half. We're literally just told later on how close they are. The final few episodes and post-game interviews further highlighted how crucial of a cog Heather was in Erica's win, so leaving the context of how their relationship formed on the cutting room floor is just bad storytelling. Sorry, Heather. We gotta squeeze that Genie backstory package in somewhere. You know, the people are craving Genie content. At number 2 is Survivor Game Changers. Watching this season feels like those little summaries it gives you for each round on Brant Steele when you're simulating a random Survivor season. The bones of Survivor are there, but so little actually makes any sense. Like, try to tell me what happened in the post-merge of Game Changers. Who was aligned with who? Who voted for who and why? You can't. It's quite literally impossible. Alliances come and go on a whim, tribe dynamics are almost incomprehensible. Even the reasons why players went home were, at times, unclear. The Michaela boot is possibly the most baffling in the show's history. It's so confusing, I feel like I'm Carolina getting proposed to.
Survivor loves blindsiding me.
There are 6 post-merge episodes, and I struggle to remember much that even happened in the second half of the season, because the first half of the season didn't do its due diligence in setting up the alliances and relationships. It results in a post-merge where episodes simultaneously feel overstuffed with strategy, and yet completely barren of substance. Events just happen with a complete lack of understandable motivation, if that makes sense. Another issue I have with the season is something we only learned post-game, that Sarah played an absolutely ruthless game of backstabbing and betrayal, which is almost completely scrubbed from the season. We know Sarah's playing the middle, but what we didn't see was her leveraging people's wedding rings against them and making people cry. This didn't need to be sanitized. Sarah played a super villainous game where she frankly emotionally blackmailed people, and we should have seen that because that rules. Anyway, I just ran the next episode on the Brant Steele simulation, and I guess Andrea and Zeke hate each other now. Who could have seen that coming? The Survivor season most in need of a re-edit is Survivor Samoa. The first place choice I'm sure most of you anticipated. I genuinely believe that Samoa is a top 10 or even top 5 Survivor season on paper, reduced to mid-tier placement at best for the edit's bizarre fixation on Russell. This was an era where Survivor was moving away from editing the ensemble and instead propping up a handful of main characters in the season's narrative. It really started with Sugar, then Coach, but reached its zenith in Samoa, where Russell got an outrageous 108 confessionals, more than 25% of the season's confessional count. This has been beaten to death, but Natalie did not get a confessional until episode 4 and only received 15 overall. That is a literal crime. Russell was finding idols without clues, he was driving a lot of the action on the island, and I hate to admit it, but he was good at the confessionals. But this is overkill. You can make Russell the main character and primary narrator. You can make this his story without sandbagging literally everyone else. The season's narrative of the Foa 4 vanquishing Galoo despite entering the merge outnumbered 8-4 is one of Survivor's greatest underdog stories, but it almost feels inevitable because it barely even feels like there's a Galoo tribe this season. We know so much about Russell and so little about them. This is in part because Foa went to every tribal council save one pre-merge, so of course we're gonna know them better. But even in the pre-challenge parts of the pre-merge, we barely spend any time with these people. I've said this before, but if you took, let's say, 40 of Russell's confessionals and divide them up amongst Natalie and every post-merge Galoo not named Shambo, you have a season where Russell is the main character and still has the most confessionals by a lot, but you also prop up Natalie as a worthy winner by showing her personality and social game, Brett as the lovable final boss who could undo all of Foa's accomplishments with a single immunity win, and also Galoo in general, which was full of both strategic and, more importantly, entertaining players.
Danger Dave. Baseball your sport?
No, making love's my sport.
You play a lot?
Not often enough.
There's 31 days worth of footage of Dave being the funniest human being alive, just lost forever. Overall, this is a season that must have been thrilling for production to watch in real time, but they went overboard on the Russellmania, something I'd bet even they'd admit to now. It's just frustrating because this is Survivor's ultimate come-from-behind win, with the impenetrable Galoo vanquished by a team of lovable underdogs and also Mick. But by leaning so heavily on Russell at the expense of everyone, the gravity of their accomplishments rings hollow, because who even is Galoo? And the ending feels unsatisfying because Who even is Natalie? I'm sure I speak for every Survivor fan when I say, release the Natalie cut. Got nothing else for ya. If you liked this video more than Survivor loves giving Russell confessionals, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.